But hi to everyone who's just joining us for another Totara community webinar. Today we're going to talk to the team at the South East of England NHS Trust about their Totara platform. We'll reflect on how the team are running their onboarding and induction program, and how the team have linked their electronic staff record, or the ESR, with Totara, and what that means in terms of saving clinical time. We'll also cover how the team are making use of Totara Perform for supervisions, and finally we'll reflect on how the COVID-19 pandemic affected the team and some of the things they put in place at that time. So just as a little starting point for this webinar, this session is being recorded, I hope. Can you see it being recorded? And yeah, it's being recorded. And it will be available in the Totara community afterwards. So if you are watching this on demand, you're very welcome to continue the conversation in the Totara community as well. If you're not already a member of the Totara community and you would like to come and have a look, we have lots of webinars, we have lots of training, we have lots of people trying to solve things. We also have a healthcare sector space, which you're very welcome to join. Lots of NHS trusts in there talking about how they're using Totara and trying to solve solutions. And so you're very welcome to join that space as well. So just as an introduction to the speakers today, Simon and Mouline. So Simon, would you mind introducing yourself first?
Hello everyone. So my name is Simon Perry and I'm the Operational Data Manager at NELFT, and I've been with the organisation since 2015 and the Data Manager since 2017.
Thanks, Simon. And Mouline?
Simon, I think you might have to do a little bit of shouting because Tash can't hear. I'm Mouline Joshi. I'm the Head of Learning Services for NELFT. I've been in post since September last year.
Great. And then Richard, would you like to say hello as well?
Yeah, my name is Richard. I'm the Managing Director of Chambury Learning, partner of Totara, and also been working with NELFT for over 5 years to implement the system.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, so Simon, feel free to shout. I know it may not feel natural, but feel free to, pretend we're doing karaoke or something, and we're just gonna have to belt out a couple of tunes for everyone. Okay. So would you mind, Mouline or Simon, would you mind introducing the trust and where you work and what you focus on?
So I'll open up and then Simon will come in towards the supervision angle. So who we are, so we're NELFT. We are a community and mental health NHS trust. We're based in South East England and we cover a geography of 2,914 square miles. You'll be able to see that in a map that should pop up. Oh, I can see it pop up. And we look after 4.3 million people. We also have 8,000 plus substantive staff, along with 1,800 bank or temporary staff across 210 sites. And the organizational development team consists of 16 people currently at the moment, who we are responsible for the induction, the onboarding, training, appraisal, supervision, revalidation, coaching, mentoring, CPD, panel plus applications, just in compassionate leadership programs, apprenticeships, and the widening participation of engaging the community, as well as the organization's full OD strategy, as well as the KPI and reporting management sections for those particular key areas.
Great, thanks, Mouline. And Simon, was there anything else you wanted to say on this slide?
No, the only thing I'll say is that we're quite a small team and got quite a lot on. So yeah, it's very busy, but no, that's really good.
Thanks very much. Okay, so just to explain, you work in partnership, so you're using your Totara platform, but you're also partnering with Chambury. I just wanted to know if you could explain maybe why you chose Totara or why you chose to partner with Chambury.
So we decided to partner with Chambury and Totara after going through a vigorous procurement process. And in that process, Richard gave us elements of what we could expect and the expectations from the partnership and alliance. And that partnership fell within the needs of the organization. So we had done several focus groups to understand what we needed from an LMS, how we needed it, what we needed delivered. And after that, we found the perfect partner in Chambury, or Richard, in the fact that it's a full integrated system. It really helps our development and it will provide some consistency and continuity. I think the Chambury promise goes quite a long way as well, and I'm sure Richard will cover that off shortly. But that really, really did support us. And in that process, we had several different people bid for that tender, as you can imagine, saying that they would meet the requirements. But Richard was very straightforward, explained the process, demonstrated the system. Project manager was put in place, and then everything was embedded into the organization. And now we just use it like it's normal. And it's changed the culture. So
Thanks, Mouline. And Richard, I wouldn't mind, or would you mind giving us a bit of an overview as to Chambury and what you do as a partner?
Yeah, we've been a partner back since 2012, I think. We're a Platinum Alliance partner working predominantly across the public sector in the healthcare sector, NHS and private. That's our promise. We promise to continue to develop our services and meet and exceed our customer expectations. And I remember the deployment with NELFT those years ago. It was a long deployment. It was quite intense. There was a lot going live at the same time. There was so much, collaboration taking place. But yeah, we're based up in the north. We support many organisations in the healthcare sector, and yeah, that's it really. We like to work in a partnership approach. That basically means that what we say is what we deliver, and what we hear our customers asking for is also what we deliver.
And if anyone ever wants to get in contact with you, Richard, what's the best place to contact you?
Through the website. There's a link on the website that sends a message. There's the phone numbers on the website, and I'm sure if you dig deep enough, you can find my mobile.
Great, thanks, Richard.
Yeah.
So, Mouline and Simon, here we're just going to talk about your journey so far, and in general, how you use your Totara platform. So,
I'll kick it off. So we moved to Totara in 2018 in September, as you can see there. Steps is a full integrated system, and it's a self-service system. It's really simple and easy to use. I'd like to think, and this is one ethos that comes from Simon, 3 clicks, you get to where you need to. And I think it works in that way. Training, and each of those panels that you can actually see, that is what our system grid actually looks like. So when you log into our system, that is the front page. So it takes you straight to where you want to go to with a search bar at the top. Our journey so far, in terms of, we are currently still re-embedding supervision, but we'll talk about supervision and results later. Appraisal, we've embedded into the system, and it really, really does work with the manager's sign off plus all the expectations. So you can actually say whether you met the expectation or you didn't in terms of when you're setting objectives and personal development plans. And in terms of training, there's a whole subsection, and we try and put as many bits of training on there as possible, because the reporting on the back system is quite nice. Can I ask you to flick to the next slide? Is that okay? So we are using it for staff as a whole, but we also have allowed people who are working within our organization, who might be agency or 2P contracts, whatever that is, to have access to our STEP system. The training that's available is our whole entire offer. And actually it has a calendar in the front, which tells you about when they're going to be delivered. So you can actually look at future dates of particular areas of training. The background is really, really nice. It gives you a really good intimate breakdown of those course plans, when they are, how long they are. And I tell you something cool, which Simon has just put in, which I think is pretty cool, is the Zoom links into the courses straight away. So when people are going on to log into the booking, the Zoom link is automatically sent to them. They can click straight on it rather than having to have a separate email and something else go out. I think that's one really good example of the training. The education, in terms of supervision is a regulatory word. So it's how we embed the 2 bits together, so supervision and one-to-one together. And I think that's been integrated in pretty well. Steps is the new system that we've been walking through, and it's hit all our professional bits that we wanted to, as well as all the support mechanisms in terms of how simple it is to use, how easy it is to use, also putting recording career guides and other bits and pieces into the system as well, loads of registrations. And supervision is supervision and appraisal are quite interesting because they also have different clauses and breakouts in them as well. So as an example, if you're doing supervision, would you want to do, if you're doing appraisal, would you want the supervision in the same month? This system now allows us to give that time frame and that extra space, so you're not wasting clinical time. You can just put in the appraisal completed X, Y, and Z date, and it then certifies you on the supervision. But it also means we can manage all the different types of supervision. And if you are from an NHS trust, I'm sure you'll note this, there are many different types of supervision, but there's never one platform to go to for every single one. But this actually has that on there, and it records it, and it actually allows you to say, yes, this is what I agreed with my manager, or this is what I disagreed with my manager, and put your comments and other bits and pieces on there. And in terms of overall support, it is supporting in different ways. I'm sure Simon will cover my bio during COVID-19 and how that supported us moving forward in terms of redeployment and other bits and pieces. So there are many different elements that we've been using steps for, and it's been a fantastic journey. I think a really good one to start on, Matt, is probably induction. So if you flick to the next slide, it will.
Yeah, sure. So that's, yeah, so you've got a huge broad offering, and yeah, for your induction, I wonder, do you think you do this slightly differently than other NHS trusts as well?
I think we do this slightly differently in terms of the system is capable of holding local inductions and other bits and pieces within it. So Simon will come back because that last point around certifications and setting all that stuff up, he's the technical god. So he'll explain all of that to you. But yeah, in terms of the other bits, it really does support our system and our compliance for induction as a whole. With 150 to 180 new starters each month, it's already difficult to manage them in terms of, could you imagine if that was paper-based, which is what it was previously? It's now an interface, which I know Simon is also covering later on, the ESR interface, and I'm sure he'll go into that as well. But it also allows the system to be almost as automated as possible. So it puts the person within an ESR onto our steps framework. So that stops the double job for Simon having to manually upload all the bits and pieces. And then the 2-week induction pack that you see there, it actually gives you the pack is the schedule's actually sent out, but the local induction checklist is then returned and signed to say, I've now completed this particular elements of my local induction, and the checklists that are there. These are custom made schedules, as you can see on the bullet point, and they're ready to go on day one. So we don't wait. We are ready to go. So as soon as we have these generated, they go out to the individual ready to go. And that's pretty much all automated. In terms of, sorry, can we go back one? In terms of certifications and stuff. So with the Chambury framework and with Totara, for us, we have to set up the audience and we have to get the audience part accurate. There are many different audiences but for us to be more automated, the audiences have to be set up correctly. And Simon has a very difficult job, and Joe has a really difficult job of maintaining this database to ensure that our offer, as an example, training, it may not be applicable to every group, every band, every team. It might not be compliance, it might be just completion. So it's really, really important to differentiate the audiences. Simon, this bit here around cleaning and easy certification, can you give us a bit of insight? Sorry, I know you're the expert at it.
No, it's all good. Thanks very much. So yeah, just coming back to one of the questions in the chat first. The base product that we've got is Totara, and then Chambury essentially take it to the next level and make it look like how it looks. We went for an integrated system because actually so many systems are, the problem you've got with so many different systems is you don't want to keep going to these different systems. You want it all in one place, and that's why we did that. And then the reason we did it as a self-service is because actually things can be done quickly if you're the one in control of it. And equally, it takes the pressure off our team. So there's some of the reasons we kind of went with the Totara product and with Chambury in terms of their customer service. That's something else that we were looking for, and they are really quite good in terms of customer service. Just coming back to induction, as Mouline alluded to, we have 150 to 180 staff. They've got custom-made schedules on day one, and they also need to know what they're doing on day one in terms of their compliance and their certifications. So that's based on staff group, banding, and team. And then from that, the system and the audiences in the background work out what they need to do. And that's what And because of that, that's what allows us to have the custom-made schedules. Along with that, we've got some clean and easy certification set up, and this is something that Chambury's really helped us with. So if we can go to the next page quickly, and you'll be able to see it on here on one of the pictures. At the bottom, you'll notice that inside our certification, we've got probably about a list of 10 to 15 courses that can be accepted for a certification. So for example, with Safeguarding Level 1, you of course want to accept Safeguarding Level 1, but you don't necessarily, you do want to accept Safeguarding Level 1, but actually you also want to accept Safeguarding Level 2 and 3 if they've done it, if they do that as well. And so the idea is on the right, you can see all of the list of courses we can accept, but actually the new starter or anyone else doing the training inside the system can only see that one course. And that's really important, because the last thing you want as a new starter is to come into the organization, see a list of 15 training inside one certification, and actually you're a bit lost and overwhelmed on what I'm actually supposed to do. So that's one of the things we've really worked hard on with Chambury, and that's been a real success. Moving with induction, as I say, we've really tried to work hard over the last couple of years to try and improve it. And of course, we'll come back to COVID a little bit later on, but this really forced us to change and adapt. And with that, Totara has been, to be honest, a front runner in that respect. Our meet and greet has gone from classroom to virtual. We have 150 to 180 on the Zoom meeting, and then we put them out into breakout rooms, and they'll meet with different execs, and they'll come back and deliberate on what was discussed. And as previously mentioned, we've done that with Zoom, and particularly with Zoom, we've been able to integrate it quite a bit. So not just from the front end, but the back end as well. So from the back end, for example, if one of our team create a course and it's going to be virtual, they can create the Zoom link inside Steps, and then it automatically create that in the background of Zoom. So we don't actually have to do it twice, if that makes sense. That's really nice in terms of duplication of work. And then equally, in terms of from the front end, people can just click on the course inside Steps, as Mouline said, and they can go straight to the Zoom room, so they don't have to keep receiving different emails or anything like that. It wasn't just COVID though that made us move over from in classroom to virtual. Cost is a big factor. We were spending up to £4,000 every month for our induction, for the room, for the catering, etc. And equally, it saves clinicians time rather than having to keep, traveling over a big space, as you saw. We definitely found that it saves a lot of people time and energy. The next thing that I think is something we're quite proud of is the local induction checklist. Previously, we were receiving local induction checklists via email. It wasn't very fluid, is probably the nicest way to put it. And with that, we were struggling to report on it, and it was certainly highlighted as a problem area. So what we've now done is we've created a course inside our STEP system where staff can now upload the local induction checklist and submit it. That's then linked to a certification, and immediately we know that whether someone's done their local induction checklist. And equally, if we need to refer back to it, we can get it. So for auditing purposes, it's great. Our compliance for local induction checklist probably went from about 13% to above 85, nearly 90 now within 3 months that the local induction checklist is done. And so for anyone that's struggling with their induction and what to do with those local induction checklists, I know it's a thing in the NHS. It's really helped, to be honest. Alongside that, I just kind of want to give a little shout out to our induction team, Hannah and Sarah. They work really hard. They put on loads of information sessions and that sort of thing. It's really good practice. So that 2 week is really filled, as you saw before, with a schedule that they'll have for 2 weeks and doing those things. The process, I suppose, is quite important to talk about, and I think we are slightly different from some NHS trusts. As we said before, you do start on the first day of the month, or first working day, or the Monday of that month, and then so the account is already made. You get that from Track, but then you've got to backfill the data later on, and from ESR. So we use the Track numbers to create the accounts, and then later on we'll use the back end of ESR to update all of those accounts, make sure the assignments are up to date, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's essentially the induction. As I say, we've really focused on trying to make the induction better. So if you want to go to the next slide, we can talk
Yeah,
about what
sure.
else. What else?
Thanks. There's quite a few questions coming in. I can see,
Yeah,
maybe,
sure.
Richard, you're answering those as well. So yes, a few people are asking about the track interface and how that works and how things work together. So I think it'd be good if we talk about the next slide, like you say, Simon, and this ESR interface and how the systems link together and how they work together.
Yeah, no, of course. So in terms of just going for a second in relation to track, we generally download the data from track and then small amount of manipulation and just upload it straight into steps is really I'm probably not doing it justice in terms of the induction team. It's very seamless, but we've tried to make the process as easy as possible. And in particular, one of the things we really wanted to improve, again, when it comes to joining the trust, was how seamless it is. So for us, it was a case of if we received certificates or anything like that, we would have to upload them. And that would take quite a bit of time. And equally, it's a little bit slow for staff to get their training records on the system. And if they didn't know about that process, then they'd have to redo the training, and that's not really very fair. So one of the things that the ESR interface has really helped with is those new starters coming into the organisation. So we share training records. This ESR interface, for people that don't know, the ESR interface is the HR side of the NHS, the system, that is. So we share records, and all of our records get straight onto ESR, and then other people from other trusts, assuming they move, can get those records. And equally, we bring records in. So as I say, it's a case of saving staff time, not having to redo training, and it's saving our team time in terms of not having to upload certificates and that sort of thing. And the last thing it can do is it can create accounts and suspend accounts. That's not something we've gone down just because of the assignment side of things, but it's definitely something it can do, and it's certainly worth investing in later. I think Richard may have some news at some point in the near future that he won't tell us what it is. So yeah.
Thanks, Simon, on that one. Just on this one, sorry, you may have said I missed it. When did you do this linking between the two systems? Was that, how long ago was that?
Not too long ago. It was probably about 12 to 18 months ago, I think now, Richard, was it?
Ish. You're on mute, Richard. Sorry.
So I was worried my phone might ring.
Yeah,
it's probably longer than 18 months, to be honest, but it's at least 18 months, possibly 2 years.
And do you know if you're seeing any sort of results from that, or have you had any anecdotal feedback about the differences it's making for you all?
Who's that to? Me or Simon?
Could be to anyone. I was hoping someone would pick it up. But...
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we are seeing some results. We're just preparing a case study at the moment with Derby NHS, Derby and Barton NHS, on the cost savings that they're seeing from the ESR interface, which is running, I believe, into hundreds of thousands of pounds, and more importantly, hours of time saved. So doctors can get onto wards straight away without having to redo their training.
Thank you. Okay, and so should we move on to the next slide, or is there anything else you'd like to mention, Mouline or Simon, on the ESR interface?
I mean, I'm happy to move on, unless there's any questions we haven't answered before we move on to the next section.
There's a few questions in there, but it looks like Richard and Mouline, you've answered most of them. If anyone has any further questions on that, we can come back as well at the end. So feel free to keep asking questions, and if we miss them, feel free to put them in again, and we can come back to them as well. So let's talk about supervision and using Totara Perform for that. So I wonder, could you give us an overview as to, just if you weren't in the NHS as well, what are supervisions as well?
So supervisions within the NHS is essentially checking in on your staff and seeing how they're doing, discussing any problems that you may have, and also what's working well. It's just a case of catching up. It's essentially probably what we know it as. It sounds very official supervision, but you could do it walking, you could do it sitting down. And it's important to note that the supervision, or we've certainly, pushed this aspect of it, is that the supervision itself is the most important thing. The system is secondary. The system is there to aid you in your terms of your supervision. So that's why I say you can go and do a walk and do your supervision or whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be formal. It's a case of just filling in the form later on, if that makes sense. With our trust in particular, we've really gone back to basics with supervision, in the sense that it's every 6 weeks. It can sometimes be more, but in terms of the form, we've really gone simple and avoided having lots of checkboxes. In our previous supervision module that we had, we probably had about 15 different boxes, and when we looked into it in detail and looked at the data, lots of people were just putting NA, and it was dictating the conversation, and that's not what supervision should be. But yeah, supervision essentially just talking to each other is probably the nicest way to put it.
Great, thanks, Simon. And how's Totara Perform helping you with this process?
So Totara Perform has really helped us in terms of getting to where we want to be. Prior to Totara Perform, we couldn't report on it very well, if I'm honest. And when we could report on it, we couldn't do a compliance report and stuff. We weren't getting reminders to do it and that sort of thing. So we've gone from, I'm a bit of a stats guy. We've gone from about 20 to 30% supervision compliance to above 70. We're not quite 85, but we're getting there. And then you can kind of see at the bottom, on the bottom left, how it looks. And one of the things, again, I'm going to have to credit Chambury for, is they've created a script for us. So in terms of supervision, they've linked the supervision perform in with the rest of the system, so we can have compliance and they get notifications and that sort of thing. So that's been really, really good. And then you can see on the right, it looks simple, and that's the point. In terms of perform, it looks simple, but it works. And you know what you're doing, you know when you're compliant, you know when you're not compliant, you know when a form has been completed. And of course, you might be managing lots of staff, so you can also filter it as and when you need to. Super Perform has really been a journey. And one of the things that, again, I'm going to credit Totara with is really how quick they adapted. With Perform. So the back end of Perform is really, really good for admins. You can close a form, you can close a certain part of the form, you can assign a new supervisor, you can remove a supervisor. In terms of that, as an admin at the back end trying to fix and help people, it's been quite quick and easy to do. And the form is really adaptable as well. So for us, as I say, we've got a really, really simple form, but actually you can do really complex things with it as well. And I'll kind of come on to that at the end, I guess.
I guess to give you an idea, Matt, in terms of the usage from the 1st of August, for a quarter, there was 9,000 times it was used in terms of the form. So that's 9,000 plus people using this now. So it's got to be simple, easy, and easy on the eye.
Mm-hmm. Great. And are you having any sort of anecdotal feedback from people who are using it, or from team members who've enjoyed the process?
So I think there was an element of a power understanding under supervision. So we're having to edit the culture of the organization, because supervision came about some time ago, but when CQC visited, they asked whether it could be in one place, and this was the perfect one-stop shop for it. And we've had to keep that momentum going, so we've had to put different functions in and other bits in, so now they can upload a Word document to it. You don't have to type into the boxes, there doesn't need to be titles, etc., etc. And I think that's really, really benefited the usage of it as a whole.
Great, thanks. Is there anything else either you'd like to say on this area, or Richard, is there anything you'd like to say on this? Otherwise we can move on, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant seeing the journey over the last 5 years in where they were and where they've got to, and the changes they've made along the way to make it much more simple and straightforward for their staff. It's just been a real positive way forward for them.
Brilliant. Feedback has been really good, actually. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, just if you are using Totara Learn at the moment and you're curious as to what Totara Perform is, so Totara Perform is performance management software provided by Totara. Typically it does performance management activities such as appraisals, feedback, 360 check-ins. There's lots of training on Totara Perform in the Totara community and Totara Academy as well. So if you'd like to come and have a look at some videos and see how things are working, you're very welcome to do that. You can also click on develop on the Totara community and you can see a competency framework. So if you've taken any Totara training in the past, you'll see a competency framework in the community at the moment. So that's another area of Totara Perform that you could come and have a look at. There's lots of resources in the academy as well. So yeah, or if you have questions about that, feel free to come back to one of us and we can give you more information as well. Okay, so of course, one area as well that was really interesting from your case study is your response to COVID. So this is like a really difficult time for people all over the world, but it also meant a lot of changes and questions about how we use technology and how we set things up in a remote first sort of situation. And I wonder, yeah, if you could walk us through some of the things that you had to implement at this time.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, COVID was a real journey for us, and I'm sure it was with any of the NHS trusts here. So I hope I'm not preaching too much to the people that were working on it as well, and I'm sure they've gone through that journey. But one of the things I would say is, particularly with NHS trusts, is they're quite slow to move, and COVID really did push the NHS to transition technology-wise. First instance, we had to extend everyone's compliance by around 6 months when it initially happened. We were going through this, we were obviously cancelling all the training because we couldn't offer these trainings anymore. And what we didn't want is staff to be receiving emails all the time to saying they need to do their training, need to do the training that A, they couldn't, and B, they're already stressed and struggling enough. And we just wanted to make it as easy as we could for our staff. And again, Chambury are really good with that and supported us through that. So that was the first instance, and then we had to do an extensive redeployment, and I guess steps really helped with this, in the sense of we are a mental health and community-based trust, so we had to retrain staff very quickly to become inpatient staff and know exactly what to do, particularly at a scary time, and steps really helped us do that. So we set up a 3-day program, and within that time frame, we could retrain staff. One of the things I kind of alluded to is the new ways of working, particularly with Zoom and YouTube. So before, all of our classrooms, all of our sessions were in classroom or they were e-learning. There was no in between, and we really had to adapt. So one of the things we did do, and we still do to some extent now, is we'll go onto Zoom, we'll press record, a bit like here now today, and we'll just record that session. It's a cheap and easy way to get training done, and then you can link that back into your learning management system. And the reason we do it through YouTube is because YouTube offers a really good function where you can get the subtitles. So for anyone that don't know, that's why we don't just drop the video straight into our system. We put it on YouTube, get the subtitles, and you can do that. And then through H5P editing, you can put little tasks inside the videos. And equally, through doing that, you can then have completions and stuff like that. So you know if somebody watched the video or not, and they can't just skip to the end or whatever it may be. One of the next things, I guess, to mention in particular is my biography. So as everyone knows, the first redeployment of during COVID was kind of just throw as many staff as you can at it, and try and place them as best you can. And that wasn't the best practice, but we worked with what we had. Whereas the second wave, what we had in between the first and the second, is using the revalidation module that we've got. People use something called My Biography, so it's essentially uploading like their CV and their skills and things like that, and then they could tick if they want to be redeployed or not. And that was really helpful. That was really helpful because obviously not everyone wants to be redeployed, and if we need certain skills for certain roles, we could do that, and it helped us manage the second wave a lot better. So moving on to London Nightingale, we had the second phase of London Nightingale. So the first phase of London Nightingale, for anyone that, I should roll back. Anyone that don't know, London Nightingale was the hospital for the emergency hospital put in place for the COVID period. So the first London Nightingale Hospital was for people with COVID, and they got moved in. That wasn't us. So the next part of the COVID hospital was it was a case of moving staff out of mainstream hospital that didn't necessarily need to be there. And so they were almost ready to leave hospital. They just need to recover, or it might have been, it could be anything. So, but essentially it was freeing up hospital beds in main hospitals if they had COVID. And that was a big task, a big challenge. Using Totara, we integrated a new website, set up links for all our e-learning on this new website, and then it fed back into the main system of steps. And the reason we did that was because we didn't know what staff were going to be turning up. It was just a case of you're going to be running the London Nightingale Monday morning. This was probably on a Friday. And then we had to get this website made. Thank you, Richard, again. It took a good weekend of work to do. As I say, we put the e-learning onto the Nightingale website, and it was a case of staff filling out a form, registering, and then through that bringing them back into STEP so we could report on them. So yeah, it was quite a big task. And I guess the final thing to talk about is the NELFT vaccination program. As everyone knows, the vaccination program, you probably had 200-300 staff that needed to vaccinate. It was a new vaccine. There was between 10 and 12 different trainings that staff had to do. And we had to quickly work out who had done those trainings and who was safe to vaccinate. So the quickest way to do that was through the program inside STEPS, and you can quickly work out whether someone's 50% or 70% or 80%. And then with that, what we did is we used an audience and a course, so someone could sign up to the course to answer the specific questions. Based on the questions they answered, they went into the audience, and then from the audience they went into the program, completed their program training, and then we knew that we were constantly running reports, knowing to know if people were safe to vaccinate or not. So yeah, that was our journey in terms of COVID.
Yeah, it's incredible really to launch training so quickly. I wonder if from that time you've learned anything new, or there's any lessons you could take away from having to deploy so quickly, or is it just that was a very stressful period and you hope it doesn't happen again, or was there any other tips or advice you can remember from that time?
I just think how diverse that the Totara product was during that time. So as I say, right from the videos that we were recording and putting into our system to the program that you can use inside STEPS as well, and there was the reporting functionality is far greater than most platforms. There was lots, I think, is to reflect on in that respect. I don't know how Richard feels or Mouline.
I guess there's always learning from these, and I think we put some of the learning into action, so it's almost our day to day. So as an example for you, Simon, what's a really good example of this? It's a good question.
I mean, the YouTube videos were certainly integrated into normal day practice, and the webinars, the biography still exists. The programs we still do as well. Certain things aren't necessarily right for certifications, but actually they do fit within a program. So our leadership program at the moment is currently being done by that, because it's not mandatory, and you don't want different certifications for lots of different things, but sometimes that kind of just works.
I think there's one more which we talked about on the way from the Chambury conference, which was around the subtitles, and I think that's a really good example. When you were first embedding those into the programs and other bits and pieces, it didn't have a subtitle, but in that learning you learned how to switch the subtitles on and to provide better accessibility. So that's one really good example.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks very much. Sorry. Simon.
No, I just guess, Richard, what was your experience from your perspective? I would be quite interested to know when you were setting up the website with us and migrating the e-learning and setting up the reports and that sort of things with us.
I think it was just the response time on it. We had a lot of customers that had to move their training whole strategy onto online literally overnight. I mean, the website we set up for yourself to provide that training and the registration processes and then the integration back into the main STEP site. I mean, it was just a really valuable exercise. So I think the main learning is just it's the change that you guys and other organizations had to do in order to actually be able to facilitate your learning, facilitate the training, get your staff up to speed as quickly as possible. And especially with the Nightingale, your vaccination program, being able to push that out as quickly and as efficiently as you did, and having a system that can manage that for you, it was just something really exciting to be involved in.
Great. I hope it's given you lots of confidence as well to be able to do things, I don't know, quickly. If new challenges come up, I suppose having that experience gives you the confidence to know that you can deal with most things really as well. I hope that. is one thing. I'm just saying that. I hope it's true.
No, it's definitely true. As I say, if there were a silver lining to everything that's happened, is we do better run our system now, and we have adapted with technology and now with the times.
Great. Okay, so just moving on. So wondering really what was sort of coming next for the platform and for the team?
Absolutely. So, kind of what I kind of suggested earlier on, we're moving with form appraisal now. We're moving away from appraisal legacy, coming into the new appraisal module, which is Perform, and we're looking forward to using it in different ways and adapting it to suit our needs. So that's coming in version 18. So that'll be fun. And then the NHS has mandated two-factor authentication for any of their systems. And so that's something that we're currently working with Rich and our IT team with, which should be good. It'll be really nice actually for staff, particularly when they're on the network, not have to keep logging in and entering username and password and that sort of thing. So that'd be really good. And of course, protecting data is one of the most important things when you're working with this type of with some of the data we work with. And then of course, essential to role. Because mandatory training has been such a success, because our compliance across the board is above 90% for mandatory training, and as I said, for appraisal and supervision, almost 85%, because it's been such a success, we're now looking at essential to role and how we can use the STEP system to do exactly the same for those topics.
Great.
I think we're just
sorry.
trying to automate as many of those processes with NELFT as possible to minimize admin intervention, like the multi-factor authentication, implementing more integration with Azure, just the integrations that we can get them in place just to try and minimize the amount of work they do with their data and just streamline all of that.
Brilliant. Mouline, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think Simon and Richard covered that really, really nicely. Essential to role is a really big part of the NHS, and I think people find it difficult to have that available for reporting and stuff. So exciting times coming from NELFT, and hopefully equally the mandatory is as successful as the mandatory has been. Essential to role is exactly the same.
Brilliant. Okay, we just had a few questions coming in, which you've all been doing a great job. Actually, this is one of the best webinars I've had in terms of teamwork here. You've been firing away the answers. It's been great. Thanks for that. So one of the questions I noticed coming was someone said they were new to Totara and they were looking to train their admins. So yeah, you can talk to your Totara partner about that, but you can also go to the Totara Academy. So we have lots of training resources available in the Academy. So yeah, if you are trying to learn how to use some of the core functionality of Totara, there's lots of resources available. Just go to totara.community. Does anyone have any other questions as well that you'd like to ask? So Tesh is just asking, do you not currently have SSO in place, Simon?
No, so at the moment we've got username and password, and the reason we initially went with that is because we wanted staff to be able to access everything from home as well, and that was probably at the time when we went live the only way we could do it. As I say, times have changed, and I'm looking forward to having it done in the next version.
Brilliant. Ruth's asking, does your appraisal information flow into ESR and update that system?
Not really, no, if I'm honest. Just because the way the certifications work, I think they possibly can. Maybe Richard can come in here.
The problem with the ESR system is they'll only accept the CSTF data backwards and forwards. They're not really open to other data going backwards and forwards at the moment. So unfortunately, the interface that we have doesn't send appraisal data. You could do bulk uploads.
Great. If anyone has any final questions, feel free to start putting them in now. Just to say again, this webinar is being recorded, so if you want to watch it again and reflect on it and come back with more questions, the webinar will be in the Totara community, and you can watch it on demand. You can also ask questions in the comments section there. So you're very welcome to reflect on this, or if you're just watching the recording in the future, hello in the future, you're very welcome to put questions in there as well. So yeah, guys, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to say about the project in general before we sort of finish up today.
Thanks for having us.
So you're very welcome. Thanks for coming and thanks for talking to us about the project. Wish you, it looks like it's been super successful so far, and congratulations on all the work that you're all doing to make this project so successful. And yeah, look forward to seeing what else is coming in the future.
Yeah.
So I think we'll finish there for today if there's no more questions, but thanks very much for your time, and thanks everyone for coming today. And like I say, feel free to keep asking questions. There's a few more coming in. People just saying thank you. So those aren't questions. That's great. So thanks everyone for your time today as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt, for facilitating.
everyone.
That's all right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks a
care.
lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.